Hey gangs, so today I'm going to show you how to use the air fryer to make some very easy and very tasty potatoes. So if you don't have an air fryer, this is reason number one to buy one. And if you do have one, stay tuned because I'm going to show you how to make the most of it right now. Everybody, thanks for watching. I'm Darren Starr, owner and coach here at 5 Star Physique and host of the Drop Set podcast, which you can find wherever you listen to podcasts. So we're going to do easy air fryer potatoes today. So if you're not familiar, an air fryer is just a countertop appliance that uses heat and air and a little bit of oil to kind of fry foods in a way that can be more healthy. If you look at the recipe book that came with this thing, there's all kinds of recipes in there that are definitely not macro friendly. So it doesn't automatically make things healthier, but it gives you the option to use a little bit less oil when you fry something, and that's what we're going to make use of today. So I'm going to do about a 10-ounce portion of a baby red potatoes today. And there's some question with how you do macronutrients with this. So if you do a 10-ounce portion here, of raw potato uncooked, it's going to cook down when it comes out of the air fryer. It's going to be about 4.5 ounces. And then the question is, well, which numbers do we log? And always, it's 10 ounces of potato, and all you're losing throughout that process is water. So it dries them out. There's no fluid left in there by the time you're done. So you're going to log that as 10 ounces of potato. So it's about 6 grams of carbs per ounce. So you're going to be logging about 60 grams worth of carbs for this. And it does because there's a little bit of volume shrinkage as well because you're losing fluid. So you're getting a smaller portion than you might think that you would for 60 grams of carbs. So that's the only real downside to this, is that it's not amazingly filling, but it is really tasty. And if your macros are high and you've got to get in a lot of stuff, this is a lower volume way to get in some macros. And if your appetite's suppressed for whatever reason, this is a good way to get in the macros that you need. So let's take a look at what I've got here, and let's get down to it. It's really easy. I'll take you through the whole thing step by step. You can kind of see what I've got going on here. I've got one potato already done. I'm going to show you how I handle the second one here. The first thing I do is run it through the mandolin. I take the little bottom slice off just so that it sits flat. And I do the chopping in 2 steps here. So I use the mandolin just because it's really fast. It creates things that are nice and uniform. And when you're putting stuff in the air fryer, having things of uniform thickness is extremely helpful because it ensures that everything is going to cook through in a similar way for the whole thing. So we just run this sucker through, being mindful of fingers, and then I use a little protective guard here for the last couple passes. And then this is kind of an optional step, but because I'm so OCD, you can see what we end up with here. I get a lot of satisfaction, I know this is going to sound sick and twisted, out of pulling everything out and stacking it back up and putting it on the cutting board and giving it a nice little uniform chop. This is optional, so you can just take them at this point, season them, and throw them in the air fryer and be totally fine. But you know what? I'm going to satisfy my own little OCD here, and we're going to chop this sucker. So I'm just going to take these and quarter them with a nice sharp knife. Try and hold it together. Turn, chop the other way. Booyah! Look at that. I mean, I love it when it works out like that. Back in the bowl it goes. The next step will be to season these things. So we'll do this with both potatoes here really quick. Again, 10-ounce portion that we're working with here. So what you're looking at right here is about 60 grams worth of carbs. Hopefully I don't cut my damn finger while I'm recording the video. That would be tragic. There we go. So the air fryer gives us the opportunity to use a little bit less oil. So for 10 ounces of potato, what I'm going to use is 1 teaspoon of oil. So I put it on the food scale here, and we're just going to go, if you look at the nutrition label here, 1 tablespoon is equivalent to 15 milliliters or 15 grams. So we're just going to add 5 grams of oil on the scale here. Or 6. That's fine. So figure every gram on the scale for this is about that many grams of fat. So now for 10 ounces of potato, we'll figure trace proteins 1 to 2 grams. Carbs are about 60 for this, and fats are now at 6 because the potatoes themselves have nothing in there. So, and that's the only thing that we need to measure. And beyond that, the only other thing that we're going to do is add some garlic powder. I am pretty generous with this stuff, so this is where your flavor comes in, because potato doesn't taste like a whole lot in and of itself. We're going to add a healthy dose of that. I'm going to use some Trader Joe's everyday seasoning. You can certainly experiment with whatever you like. You know, if you like things a little bit more savory, a little bit more spicy, you could throw some crushed red pepper flakes in here. And then we're going to throw in some salt also. And then the final step here is I'm just going to toss it by hand to mix everything up, but my hands are going to get super dirty, and then I'm not going to be able to stop the recording on my phone. So I'm going to stop it right now, and then we'll pick things back up when we throw it into the air fryer. As you can see, this process moves pretty quickly. So I just went ahead and hand tossed everything in here just for about 10 seconds or so, just to mix everything up nice and thoroughly. So you can see there's a little bit of a oily sheen on these. The spices are all mixed in there. And then from there, if you haven't used an air fryer before, this is what it is. So it's just a big countertop appliance. It has a basket that you pull out, and then this thing has it's a nested basket. So this part comes out. This part, you can see it. I don't clean this regularly because these potatoes are literally the only thing I've ever made in this air fryer. But this is solid, and then the basket where everything sits, this has holes in it just to help with air circulation so that it can get through to the underside, and then it's got vents along the side so the air can get in there and circulate all around. So we'll just keep these pieces together like that. We're going to transfer the contents of our bowl into there. And the only variables really with the air fryer are time and temperature. That's it. So we're going to stick this thing in. It's going to beep obnoxiously. And this has a setting for chips on it. And when I do that, when I hit chips, it goes to 400 for 20 minutes. So we want it on 400. I like it for a little longer than 20 minutes just because if I'm doing a larger serving, it's going to need a little bit more time. So I'll typically give it 24 minutes. And then we'll hit start. And it's underway. So the only other thing to do now is to watch it periodically. So I'm going to check back in here about every 7 or 8 minutes. I'm going to pull this thing out, which will have the air fryers turn off automatically. I'm going to stir things with a fork. I take that opportunity to add a little bit of extra salt as I mix things up. And then I put it back in and it resumes right where it left off. So figure it'll probably take about 20, 22 minutes, but I'll check back in with it after about 7 or 8 minutes and we'll see what it looks like then. All right, and welcome back. So it's been about 7, 8 minutes here. So I'm going to pull this thing out so you can see what this part of the process looks like here. You kind of hear things sizzling there. So you can see that there's just a little bit of a golden sheen starting to develop on these. The oil looks like it's getting cooked in a little bit. So I'm going to take the opportunity to salt that just a little bit. Use a fork and just kind of, move things around a little bit. It prevents them from getting stuck. It ensures that we're getting really good air circulation throughout the whole thing so that they cook a little bit more evenly. Realistically, if I'm not explaining this whole process takes about 7 seconds or so. A little sprinkle of salt back on there. Push it back in and it will restart automatically. Picking right back up where it left off before with 17 minutes left to go, which realistically is probably more like 10 to 12. So I'll keep an eye on this thing and probably do that one more time and then I'll pull it back out and I'll let you see the finished product and see what we end up with. Okay, so it's all done. I pulled this out at it ended up being about 17 minutes total cooking time. So you can see what we ended up with here. Pretty tasty, good color. It's a little soft still. That probably could have gone a little bit longer. I just got really impatient because I am starving. So rather than letting them crisp up a little bit more, I said, you know what, that's good enough. They're going to be packed with flavor. I'm ready to go. So you can eat these as is. You can dish them up with a little sugar-free ketchup, whatever other condiment you like, and go to town. So you can see, this is the size of it. This is 60 grams of carbs. So like I said, it's definitely a lower volume approach. So that may work for you. It may be something that, if you're cutting, you might want to avoid this. I did for my last prep just because the other variable in this is, how much of that oil that we put in actually gets in here and how much gets cooked off, left behind in the bowl, left behind in the basket in the air fryer. It can be tough to say. So there was a level of imprecision with that I wasn't terribly comfortable with. So with my recent cut, I didn't do these, but now I'm comfortable with loosening things up a little bit. And really the margin of error is pretty small on that, so it should be okay either way. Anyway, there you go. So if you've got questions, comments, hit me up in the comments down below. You can also contact me through my website, 5starphysique.com, or 5 Star Physique or Darren Star all throughout social media. Thanks for watching. Enjoy.